Hi, I'm Kim Skildum-Reed from Power Sponsorship. Welcome to Ambush Marketing Basics in about 10 minutes. This is a quick, no judgments tutorial on ambush marketing, how it works and how to keep it from happening to you. The first thing we need to do is define what ambush marketing actually is, and here's a really simple explanation. It's a complement of activities that are undertaken by a brand to gain a commercial return from a property that they don't sponsor. That is, there's no contractual relationship, no financial relationship between that brand and the event or other property that they're gaining commercial return from. Now here's the thing, and this is a big myth. Ambush marketing itself is not illegal. There are a few rules, I'll go over them in a moment, but only really inexperienced ambushers end up breaking them. Ambush is controversial, but most brand marketers consider it to be just another marketing option. It's a strategic, not an ethical choice. And properties and media themselves are much more likely to be calling foul. Properties are trying to protect their value, and media just love a sensational story. And here's the really interesting thing. Consumers, frankly, don't care. They are driven by what's in it for them, and if an ambusher is adding more value to their experience around an event than a sponsor, they'll side with the ambusher. In my long career in sponsorship, I've helped dozens upon dozens of major clients to ambush-proof hundreds of investments. But cards on the table, I've also helped a number of my major clients to mount very successful, very big ambush marketing campaigns. There are some compelling reasons why ambushers would be attracted to this practice, and I want to let you in on a few of those. The first one, and is probably the most obvious, which is that ambushers get sponsorship-type results with no rights fees. And with some rights fees going into many, many millions of dollars, this can be a very compelling reason to ambush. Another compelling reason is that they get sponsorship-type results when they have no access to the sponsorship itself. For instance, if there is an event that they'd like to sponsor, but a competitor is already sponsoring, they can get similar results by ambushing. This is the big one for me. This is the reason why I actually think ambush marketing continues to thrive, and that is that you'll have almost complete creative freedom. There's no partnership to manage, there are no approvals required, and no sponsorship hierarchy to respect. So unless you breach the rules, you can do almost anything you want. And really, when it comes right down to it, there are only very, very few rules. Ambushers shouldn't breach intellectual property laws. That is, they shouldn't be using the logo or other intellectual property of the property without permission. They can't call themselves a sponsor if they're not a sponsor. And some major events also have some proximity rules which shouldn't be breached. But if you don't breach those three rules there, you can do virtually anything you want. There are a number of different kinds of ambush, and they all operate very differently from each other. The first major kind is cosmetic ambush. These are driven by ego, they're not driven by strategy. The strategic benefit of doing this kind of ambush is absolutely tiny, and it's not going to hurt the sponsor. There are three kinds of cosmetic ambush. The first one is exposure-based, and that's literally the ambusher trying to get their logo into an event where that logo doesn't belong with the hopes that it's going to get some kind of media coverage. Again, the value of that to the ambusher is almost nil. Then there's the thorn in the side ambush. This can take many forms, but the driving force behind it is just annoying the sponsor. An example of this is there's a major festival, and it's been sponsored for a long time by a major telecommunications company. People have to walk into a venue through a foyer in order to pick up their tickets to any of these festival events, and the major competitor of that telecommunications company sponsors the foyer of that venue. So, are they getting any kind of event-driven benefit off of that? No. Are they annoying the rightful sponsor? Probably. The third kind of cosmetic ambush is a publicity ambush, and this really has nothing to do with gaining a strategic result for the ambusher at all. In fact, it has nothing to do with the ambusher at all. It has to do with taking the focal point away from the rightful sponsor. Now, this could be, doing a publicity stunt that shifts the media coverage to that publicity stunt and away from the event that's being sponsored. An example of this would be, and I know that this has actually happened on a number of occasions, where a non-sponsor hires a beautiful, buxom stripper to streak across a field during the critical point of a major game, thus kind of attracting more media coverage to that and less to the event that's being sponsored. So again, that wasn't about the ambusher getting any benefit, it was actually about hurting the sponsor. Does this work? Not a lot. If the sponsor's doing their job, it's not going to hurt them. Then there's the proximity ambush. This is where an ambusher sets up on the outskirts of a major event. Now, the biggest, splashiest example of this is Nike Town. That's when Nike was not a sponsor of the Olympics, but they would set up this amazing experiential zone right on the outskirts of the Olympic sort of perimeter in the major Olympic host cities. So Nike Town is a great example of a proximity ambush. But these can be just as simple as, we have a major festival and it's sponsored by an ice cream manufacturer, and right on the perimeter of the festival is a Mr. Whippy ice cream van. So that could actually be considered a proximity ambush as well. Then there's the media ambush. This is when a non-sponsor buys the media package during the coverage of an event that's sponsored by one of their competitors. A very old example from here in Australia that just always pops to mind is when Ansett, who is a now defunct airline, was sponsoring the preseason competition of the Aussie Rules football. It was the Ansett Cup, and the media coverage was done by Qantas. So it was the Ansett Australia Cup, brought to you by Qantas. Now, this is the kind of ambush that really does work. It's a strategic ambush. And what it does is it leverages the experience around the event, not the event itself, but the experience around the event. And it's planned and leveraged and measured exactly like a best practice sponsorship, but it doesn't have the investment. Strategic ambush is not about pretending to be a sponsor. It is not about deception at all. It's about adding value to the larger experience around the event, and doing that in contrast to a sponsor that may not be adding that kind of value. When we talk about strategic ambush, it is absolutely critical to understand the difference between the event and the event experience. So here's the event. The event is the physical event, and it's any media or other marketing that they control. It is really very limited. It has a small footprint, as opposed to the event experience. The event experience is everything from the first time somebody thinks about going to this event and the anticipation, all the way until the very last memory fades. It is the experience of being in a city when the Olympics are on. It's the social media and the blogging. It's the chats in the pub. It's all of that that doesn't belong to the event. It is owned by the individuals. That is where ambush happens, and it is totally leverageable for a big strategic result. In that event experience lies the key to ambush-proofing your investments. You can't rely on your partner to protect you. They only control a small part of that event experience. And you can't rely on the law to protect you. Smart ambushers don't need to break the law in order to actually create a strategic ambush, because IP and proximity laws don't apply to the event experience. So if you want to protect yourself, you have to actually protect yourself. You want to leverage the event experience, not just the event. So you really want to go out and not just leverage what you spent the money on, which is very easy to be your focal point, but it's not going to help you. Leverage the whole event experience. Really add value within that whole event experience. You also want to use the flexibility of that event experience to do some amazing creative things. Think like an ambusher and you'll do great leverage. And you also want to concentrate on your connection with the target market, not on your connection with the event. You and the event is not the important relationship. You and the target market is. Concentrate on that. This has been a very short tutorial, but there are plenty more resources for you. The first one is the Ambush Marketing Toolkit. This will show you exactly how strategic ambush is done, but more importantly, how to stop it from happening to you. Then there's my website, powersponsorship.com. There are a number of online resources there that are totally free, including tools, white papers, templates, recommended books, and more. Also on Power Sponsorship, you'll find information on the professional services that I provide, including consulting, training, strategy sessions, and webinars. Finally, you might want to have a look at my sponsorship blog. That's at blog.powersponsorship.com. There are over 100 blogs there, including lots of blogs on ambush marketing, great leverage strategy, and measurement. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you are never ambushed.